Totally Football Show special Are We the Farmers edition as the Premier League's Champions League blowout continues. Call him Federico Valverde, right? As City have epic fail v Real. Chelsea and Paris also end in failure, thanks to Kvaratskhelia, while Arsenal, he who lives by the corner, falls by a corner. Plus, Bodo Glimt are apparently morphing into Bayern Munich now. We'll talk about all of that then. Look out, here comes the Premier League again. We'll look at the title race, the drive for top 5, the battle to survive, and more in this Totally Football Show. Thursday, the 12th of March. Woohoo! Welcome to another Totally Football Show. Today, Duncan Alexander from The Athletics with us.
Hello, James.
Hi to you. Tom Williams from Canal Plus.
Bonjour, James.
Is that a fair?
I mean, I work for them also.
Good.
So, I mean, yeah, sure.
Sounds good as well, because you're going to do some PSG chat. Woo. And the man from Pickfair's here, Benji Lanyado.
Hey, Jimbo.
All right, CEO of Pickfair.
That's one, thank you.
You paid the cost to be the boss. Benji, you also just revealed, just before we pressed record today, that you are a concert violinist.
No, not a concert.
Are you playing a concert?
I'm playing in a concert the night before
On
the live
violin?
show. Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right, then.
I mean, are you more Vanessa May or Nigel Kennedy? What are we talking?
Neither. Although I have met Nigel Kennedy a few times. He actually inspired. He came to my primary
supports
school.
Aston Villa.
This is true. I know.
And I know that because he says it every single time.
He came to my primary school, played the violin, and that inspired me to play the violin because he was wearing a Villa kit whilst playing. So I was like, okay, you can like football and classical music.
Wow, what a revelation for a young...
He was, yeah.
Did you mistake it for a West Ham kit? Is that what
I appreciated the colour scheme at the time.
Okay.
Wow.
He played a concert for the England players during the 1990 World Cup, and the photos are incredible because they look so bored. They were all like sat like that on the
But they
table.
were out on. There's some great stories about this when Nigel Kennedy was out on a boat off the coast of where were they in Naples?
Oh, where the Gaza
Sardinia.
swims.
That's right. And suddenly someone swims up to the boat and gets
Gaza.
on, and it's Gaza.
It's Gaza, yeah.
And then they proceed to have a lovely old afternoon.
You read All Played Out by Pete Thomas.
I haven't, but I've
Have
heard,
you not?
I've certainly heard.
Or is
the
it Pete
anecdote.
Davis? Might be Pete Davis.
Pete Davis.
Pete Davis. You haven't read All Played Out by either Pete Thomas or Pete Davis. The former, because it doesn't actually exist yet. Perhaps you'll bring your violin one day in, Benji, and play for us. Maybe when we're talking about Spurs and their end of season. I don't know. Anyway.
I would need the world's smallest violin for.
Maybe when all the English clubs go out of the Champions League in the last 16.
Tom, thanks for bringing us back on point. English sides, 6 teams involved in the last 16. None of them won this week. None of them received a hero's welcome. After Liverpool, Newcastle and Spurs on Tuesday. Wednesday, winless for Arsenal, who drew 1-1 at Leverkusen in the early game. Chelsea, who got done 5-2 at Paris Saint-Germain. And Man City, who lost 3-0 at Real Madrid to that Federico Valverde hat-trick. It's the first day in the history of this competition. The 2 English clubs have lost by 3 goals on the same day. Also on Wednesday night, 3-0 win for that Bodo Glimt against Sporting Club de Lisbon. That Bodo Glimt, eh? Crikey. 5 of the 6 English clubs were away from home. And there is potential for some of them to go through, but is there, 2 questions actually. 1, is there a reason for this? And 2, Tom Petty says, is that 5th Champions League spot on account of the coefficient now in danger, Duncan?
It's not.
Okay, the first question then. So,
just to expand slightly.
Okay.
The English teams racked up so many wins in the league stage that helps. Plus, we still have 3 teams in, Forest and Villa in the Europa League. It would probably, if 6 or 7 of them go out next week, then we might be in trouble. But even then, it's still up in the air. So
broadly speaking, we spent months talking about, particularly in the case of Spurs, who were doing great in the Champions League, but really badly in the Premier League. We were citing that as an example of effectively the difference in quality between the Premier League and the Champions League. So how come it suddenly proved to be the other way around?
I mean, it's amazing. Like, English football obsesses over corners and like hitting the big lad up front, and then their clubs find themselves being dazzled by such unfamiliar concepts
But not
as
until now.
passing
that's not true.
and goalkeepers
So the league
not treating
phase,
the ball like a terrifying foreign object.
PSG and Bayern.
I think that is a factor in it.
Well, PSG and Bayern were both beaten by Arsenal in the league phase. Both teams who looked the fine examples of that continental excellence that you're referring to. So why is it that all of a sudden English clubs have come up short?
There's a false narrative that's emerged this morning and last night, which is that English clubs are so obsessed with corners and set pieces that they've suddenly ventured onto the continent and been baffled. But City lost to Real Madrid because they decided to not play in midfield. Yeah. And Chelsea,
that's part of it because they have all set themselves on this footing.
And Chelsea,
a lot of them have lost the ability to play with the kind of control that characterised their. You look at Manchester City, the extent to which Guardiola has adopted this new blueprint. The reason that City are so terrible in the second half of their matches an awful lot is because they no longer know how to control games, specifically like Champions League knockout games.
What's been working in the Premier League for a formation that baffled every Manchester City.
Yeah, I think
three wingers. Where Real Madrid was just odd.
You're calling this week a freak?
It wasn't their normal approach. That's the point.
Yeah, I do think it's a freak that City did some weirdness that we can talk about.
Right.
A bit of sort of Pep shenanigans.
Yeah.
Real Madrid was kind of, a Valverde hat-trick is kind of freakish, right? In the Spurs game, a kind of disastrous goalkeeping performance, sort of
Are you calling
freakish.
Spurs defeat a freak?
Well, put it this way. I don't think Atletico Madrid would have beaten them 3-0 by 3 goals. Without that kind of
possibly
disastrous start. And then also, I think the Chelsea game that didn't feel at all like a 3 goal difference.
I mean, it wasn't.
So all three of them, I think, had freakish elements. And ultimately, Liverpool and Arsenal were going to go through.
I think Lady Bracknell would say something about that. 6. Well, you could have one disappointing result, but have 6 of them.
Who was Lady Bracknell for the uninitiated?
Importance of being earnest.
Oh, right.
And Soccer Saturday.
And kind of pre-meme.
She's on Soccer Saturday now, which I think is
She's on what, right?
Soccer Saturday, because of that sort of insight.
Is she?
Yeah. I think, to Benji's point, that I don't think you can attribute the woes of English teams this week. There are plenty of things you can attribute it to, but it's not to some sort of like muscular set piece obsession at all.
Well,
not just the set pieces, the more direct football. I think it makes them less well equipped for playing specifically knockout football in the Champions League. Because if you don't look after the ball, you get punished more. Right. And that's what we've seen quite a lot.
And that wasn't the case in the league phase, you feel, because it wasn't knockout football? I'm not sure. Tell you what, why don't we get into a more forensic game-by-game examination of Wednesday's results, starting off, Tom, with the action at the Parc des Princes. 5-2, the final score at the Parc des Princes, as tactical Luddites Chelsea, fussing around over their corners, got caught out by the nouvelle vague of French tactical nous. As Benji and you were just saying, it didn't seem like a 5-2 game, did it? Very even. Chelsea twice came from behind, at least until about a quarter of an hour to go when Kvara came on.
Yeah, well, it was, I think, a combination of Kvaratskhelia coming on, but in particular, the extremely costly error that Chelsea goalkeeper Philip Jurgensen made with 16 minutes remaining. PSG went ahead twice. Chelsea pegged them back twice. So it was 2-2 when Kvaratskhelia came on. It felt very finely balanced, like it could go one way or the other. And not for the first time this week, we saw a goalkeeper being somewhat surprisingly promoted to first-team responsibilities, making a huge mistake. His pass is intercepted by Bradley Barcola. Kvaratskhelia tees up Vitinha, who beautifully lobs it in.
But also, merit to Barcola for a brilliant bit of pressing. The angle, the way he closes down the angle and then shifts to block the resulting pass, I thought was exceptional. But you're right, Vitinha's goal.
Barcola, it was the fact that he started that basically pushed Kvaratskhelia onto the bench. But Barcola has been in good goal-scoring form of late, 3-3 in Ligue 1. And Luis Enrique decided that he was going to put Ousmane Dembele in his habitual false 9 role and went for Désiré Doué over Kvaratskhelia, I think as much for defensive reasons as anything else, because when PSG didn't have the ball, Doué dropped back into midfield. Right. And Kvaratskhelia has been criticised a little bit in recent weeks for shooting an awful lot and not scoring. So he decided to repair that last night by shooting an awful lot and scoring.
Scoring twice and producing an assist, a brilliant cameo from the Georgian. Doué, who, as much as Chelsea had led to the 5th PSG goal, themselves set up Chelsea's second equaliser, I think it was, through when Doué gave the ball away for all his other fine work. Kvaratskelia's first, was it the first goal where he... Yeah. Everybody knows what he's going to do, but nobody can stop him. One of those.
Just can't stop it.
Robin.
A reverse Robin, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because he has occasionally played on the right and through the middle in recent weeks. Everyone knows his best position is on the left, and he's generally competing with Barcola to play there, albeit Doué can play there as well. But yeah, I mean, you saw last night what he can do when you put him on the pitch and allow him to play in his best position. It helped that the game had become so stretched at that point, because I think Chelsea felt that there was potentially a victory there for the taking.
Well, they scored, didn't they? And it was disallowed to go 3-2 up.
Yeah. So, yeah, a pretty close game. I mean, PSG scored 5 goals from expected goals of 0.87.
Yeah, how is that possible?
Which I think just demonstrates the quality of their finishing. I mean, all 5 goals were really nicely taken. 5-2 flattered PSG quite a lot, I think. But I felt it was quite similar to the game that PSG played last season against Manchester City, which basically started their run towards glory in the Champions League. Home fixture against an English team, slightly open, slightly chaotic fixture. They were also previewing a new kit last night, as they had been against
What was the
City last
inspiration
season.
for that, Tom?
It's called something to do with the night. I did look this up. It's their 5th kit. Obviously 4 wasn't quite enough to get them to the end of the season. Yeah. And also they saw what had happened last season when they brought the new kit out. So, why not try it again?
Just looking at the numbers from that game, you mentioned PSG's XG. Chelsea's was 1.6, so quite a bit higher. They had 4 Opta-defined big chances compared to PSG's 2. The muscular, evil Premier League team conceded 7 fouls. The delicate Continentals 14. So yeah, I'm not sure we can, as you say, I don't think it was a 5-2 game.
But there was a funny article in L'Equipe prior to the game yesterday talking about the difference in approach with regard to physicality between PSG and Chelsea, and saying PSG are too nice. They never get any players sent off. They never commit any fouls. Luis Enrique takes that very seriously.
They don't rough up ball boys.
Chelsea, on the other hand, are having this record-breaking season of red cards, and maybe PSG need to, sort of take a leaf out of Chelsea's book. And I did think, this wasn't the kind of the all-conquering PSG from last season, but I thought particularly off the ball, they looked much more like the PSG of last season. The pressing, the counter-pressing was very aggressive. Some of Luis Enrique's decisions were slightly peculiar. He had Achraf Hakimi man-marking Enzo Fernandez, following him all around the pitch whenever Chelsea had the ball. And as a consequence, Marquinhos found himself up against Pedro Neto, and that didn't work at all because Pedro Neto is extremely quick and Marquinhos is extremely not. And that's where Chelsea's second goal came from, Neto burning past Marquinhos, squaring for Fernandez. So that was curious.
They did find one person who could deny Pedro Neto, though, in the stadium.
The ball boy incident.
Pedro Neto did apologise afterwards.
Yes. Not a 5-2, but at the same time I've checked and it certainly was 5-2. So is it over?
Probably, but Chelsea beat PSG 3-0 in the Club World Cup finals, so they know that they are capable of doing that. And this isn't yet the completely sort of invulnerable PSG of last season. And again, even saying that, you go back to PSG's Champions League campaign last season, they wobbled massively in the second leg against Aston Villa. They wobbled at times against Arsenal in the semi-finals. They were and at Anfield. They were so indebted to Gianluigi Donnarumma. So I think it's possible for Chelsea, but unlikely.
All right, Safanov, not yet.
He's a poor man's Donnarumma fundamentally, and you look at the first Chelsea goal. A more accomplished goalkeeper probably saves that. He wasn't terrible, but he's just not an elite goalkeeper. And that's a concern for PSG. Even if they do manage to rekindle the magic of last season, they wouldn't have won the Champions League last season without arguably the world's best goalkeeper. So can they do it again this season, playing less good football and with a significantly less good goalkeeper?
I think at least 3, maybe 4 of our teams will go through. So I think we can say Arsenal almost certainly will go through. Liverpool feels quite likely. And then of the rest, I can see with, certainly with, City and Chelsea being at home, the possibility of madness happening is relatively high. Also, can I just make a quick point about XG?
Yeah.
Anyone else having this feeling this season repeatedly that XG's sort of robotic head's gone?
Not fit for purpose.
Well, I've seen a number of times. Well, no offense, Frank. But in PSG's XG of less than 1. Look at all those chances. I know this is like, especially like the Vitinha chance. The keeper's off his line.
They had no shots in the 6-yard box. All their shots were basically in line, in and around.
Maybe
the
I'm starting to question the actual.
No, but if people shoot from the positions they shot from in that game, they're like 0.1, 0.12.
But this happened.
But they actually did, and they scored 5 goals.
Because they're a good team.
Benji, I feel, is saying, should the
players.
metrics be readjusted?
The model works.
Taking into consideration, it's not just like where they are in the 6-yard box, but what is around them.
You're straying very close to that. When I have a shot, it's 1.0 XG because I believe in it.
I just think that increasingly it is not as like much of a slam dunk statistic as I thought it was. Because again, West Ham had a game against Bournemouth a few weeks ago that was 0-0, and West Ham had an XG of like 3.5, and it's like the highest ever XG that we got. I watched that game, and it was an incredibly even game. A draw was absolutely the right result. So the XG stat was completely misleading. I'm just sort of wondering if anyone is this a chain of events rather than an isolated incident. Is XG getting poorer?
I think football's evolved beyond XG's original parameters. Maybe. However, that is a subject which we can maybe touch on.
But also I think it's important not to hold too much store by XG when it comes to analysing a single game.
Exactly.
Like it's more useful when it comes to analysing trends.
You brought it up, Tom, in relation to this game.
Well, because it is, because it
was a remarkable. It
demonstrated the quality of PSG's finishing and the unlikelihood of them winning 5-2, and kind of backs up the general feeling people had watching the game that it was a slightly flattering scoreline.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all of which they're all
done its job.
3 points.
Yeah. I mean, you could also say that with that XG. I must admit, I do question its.
Maybe it needs an update.
I think it's turning, Duncan. You thought you got it in, and
I mean, this is absolute nonsense.
Tell someone up to turn it off and on again.
I think it's an interesting. Guide, but I do believe that the way that football is played now is maybe not reflected by the numbers that XG.
Well, I think we're seeing some incredibly good. I mean, again, goes against the current narrative that the current players can't shoot or dribble. I think they pretty much can, and because defenders are so good now, that you have to shoot in the way that PSG did last night with very high quality.
So it should be upgraded. Excellent. Disappointing, Benji, lack of the.
Yeah, I was waiting for the binaries. Yeah, the Morse code. Sorry, yeah.
But in no other regard was it in any way disappointing that third goal on a magnificent first half hat-trick from Federico Valverde, a tip of the sombrero to the Uruguayan. Absolutely majestic performance, saluted by the various injured Real Madrid teammates in the stands who seem to be losing their minds, particularly over that third goal. What a hat-trick. Duncan, you were watching this game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
words. What was the XG on that goal?
Actually, that's a good point. We'll look it up. But no, I mean, that third goal, I think it's gone straight into my top 5 favourite goals
of all time.
All time?
Yeah.
What are the other 4?
Well, not, as we've discussed in this place before, not Zidane's in the 2002 Champions League final, because that was a lucky hit. But yeah, I mean, I think the geometric precision, not once but twice in that goal, where Brahim Diaz just lifts it over.
Yeah.
And then Valverde and Mark Gay, he jumps and he's like, well, I'm going to connect with this ball because science tells me I'm going to connect with this ball. And then he doesn't. And he almost has a look on his face as he lands of like, how did that get over my head? And then he turns and he just sees Valverde like volley it, but right off the end of his foot as well. And it's like, that's what keeps it down as well. If he'd caught it on the laces, it probably would have gone over. But it's beautiful. Yeah.
Shades of Sean Longstaff. There's no higher compliment than that.
The first goal was pretty nice as well.
Well, all 3 of his finishes. This is why I was talking about it as a bit of a freak. Like he finished all 3 so well, and it's so sort of like, I think, quite brutally exposed Pep's weird lineup. So a lot of things conspired for this result, but ultimately it could have been more, and maybe should have been with the penalty in the second half.
Right.
Slightly curious decision that Gianluigi Donnarumma made on the first goal to pull his arm away. I think he thought he was closer to the edge of the penalty area than he actually was, and was worried about committing a handball. But Annie McCoy's picked this out in commentary. If Donnarumma just puts his hand out, he probably stops that, but he doesn't, and
I also love a finish where a player's got a really tight angle as well, like Mark Hughes. And
hits it quite hard, it's 91.
Yeah, I mean,
so come on,
for
what are the
XG
other top
fans,
4 goals, Duncan?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh,
surely every football lover walks around with that list.
Okay, Tom, what's your favourite?
No,
my favourite goal of all time.
I'll step in here. I've seen Tom Williams score at the same end. This goal was better. Wayne Rooney against Newcastle when he's having a go at the ref, and then he just like shrugs off the ref, runs forward, and hits the hardest volley you've ever seen in your life. That's always my number one.
Hal Robson-Kanu, Wales against Belgium.
There you go.
That is up there.
What about you, Benji?
Weirdly, do you remember Freddie Guarin scored from about 40 yards?
Yes. Porto? Yeah.
I don't know why. It always sticks in my head as being like the most unbelievable goal. His celebration was good as well. Then I got to mention, obviously, Di Canio against Wimbledon, because I was there. Payet's free kicks.
Right.
Crystal Palace and Man United away.
I saw Dean Windass score a 42-yard volley at Adams Park against Wycombe for Hull, and it's the only time I've been at a game where the whole ground just spontaneously applauded because it was so good.
His son's doing pretty nicely in the Championship at the moment, isn't he?
Okay. Sorry, you were going to say something quite different, Duncan.
Yeah, for the XG dissenters, first goal 0.53 because he's shooting into an open net. Fair play, good job, the model. Second one, which was arguably the hardest finish. XG backs that up, 0.15. Decent. And then the one that we all love and will watch in our head many, many times, 0.67. So
Niall Dunn says, is Valverde the best midfielder in the world? I think one of the remarkable things about his performance last night, and it was a shock that he'd never scored a hat-trick before in this competition.
Hadn't scored so far this year in the competition.
Yeah, but part of the reason surely for that is that he spent several decades, it feels like, playing at right-back. An emergency right back for Real Madrid. And even last night put in a real shift at the other end as well.
He was incredible, wasn't he?
I mean, this is the thing. I don't think he's one of the best midfielders in the world, but I think he symbolises something about Real Madrid that is very significant in that he is the guy who just fills in where you need him to fill in. And when you need him to fill in at right back, he will do it for a full season, and he'll provide balance in midfield. And when Kylian Mbappe isn't there and they need someone else to run in behind, he's the guy who runs in behind. And Arbeloa compared him to Juanito after the game, the great Madrid striker of the late 70s, 80s, who was synonymous with this succession of completely improbable European comebacks that became part of Madrid legend. Not the most talented player, but someone who just had this ability to rise to the occasion. And that is what Valverde is, sort of brings that Uruguayan...
But he is talented.
He's
4 or 5 seasons ago, he was just banging in worldies.
Super talented, but I don't think he's... I mean, he is among the top-ranked midfielders. But when you're listing the leading central midfielders in the game, he doesn't necessarily get a mention. I don't think that really matters. Like, he's just the ultimate guy who will do the job.
People will take this the wrong way, but he's a bit like Ray Parlour in Arsenal's peak, because he's like an exceptionally good player who fills in and does a brilliant job, but is never going to be the superstar of the team. But occasionally has his day.
Well, occasionally gets amazing hat-tricks like Ray Parlour.
The superstars of the team were, quite a few of them, up in the stands watching Jude Bellingham, Kylian Mbappe, because Rodrigo's not there as well. None of those players, and they pressed and harried City in a way that I think caught a lot of people by surprise. Discuss the relationship between those two facts.
Yeah, could be.
Well, City also, I think, were the architects of their own downfall. I think this was absolutely an example of Pep overthinking.
We've not seen it for a while.
Shenanigans lineup. Yeah,
he did it in Madrid before, didn't he?
Well, that ground sends him.
But he did weird things all over the place. So first of all on the flanks, right? Last time they played at the Bernabéu, Doku terrified Real Madrid, and Nico O'Reilly scored a header, I think, right? So he played those two on the flank. Very quickly, like Real Madrid had obviously learned from that. They tripled up on Doku. Often that was Valverde as part of that. Nico O'Reilly was then bombing up the flank. And of course, Valverde, being very intelligent, filled in the space, and that's where his first goal comes from. And actually, the cross for the third goal was from where Nico O'Reilly should have done better. And then on the other side, and this is the real madness, he played Kusanov as a right back, and then Savinho, who's in no sort of form, as the kind of right winger, and essentially played three wingers because Semenyo was also in there. As sort of Duncan mentioned, no midfield, and I think that in the kind of post KDB era, like, City have got to have at least one of like Cherky, Foden, Reinders in there, adding a little bit of control, and he chose to start none of them. So this was like, obviously Real Madrid were brilliant. They were ruthlessly good. Valverde was ruthlessly good in the first half. Should have been 4-0, but this was City's muck up as much as Real Madrid's brilliance, I think.
What about Arbeloa, whose position was once again being
West
called
Ham
into
legend
question.
Arbeloa.
West Ham legend Arbeloa. His Real Madrid side just over a week ago had lost against Getafe. They barely got past Celta Vigo at the weekend.
It looks like Mr. Arbeloa, Senor Arbeloa, has been learning from Senor Michael Cox, so he's on the right lines.
So Arbeloa follows Michael Cox on social media platforms.
Yeah, as we all do, hopefully.
As we all do, yeah. And what was it that you saw from Michael Cox's...
Michael did an interesting piece last week looking at how a few teams led by the Corinthians women's team, I think, have started putting players on the side of the box. You can't go beyond where the penalty spot is, but you can go up to that point. And it's because, and he used a lot of trigonometry to show that if the ball rebounds to the side from a save, it is a shorter distance, and you've got a slightly higher chance, theoretically, of scoring. And it was noticeable that Gula, just as Vinicius was about to take his penalty, ran round to the left side of the box and was there. And it almost worked because Donnarumma did save it, but obviously saved it the other side.
And Arbeloa follows Michael Cox.
So I'm saying that Michael might be shaping, the shape, or affecting the shape of modern football.
It's remarkable, isn't it? Very good. It is the 29th time in the European Cup or Champions League that Real Madrid have won a first leg by 3 goals, and they have never failed to go through after that. Pep, afterwards saying 3-0 is better than 4-0, which is empirical.
True.
Simple maths.
Yeah. But what hope does anyone hold for City next week? Do you have them, Benji, in your famous teams that might somehow pull it off next week?
I think it's possible. I just think that do you know what? We somewhat semi-deliberately ignored Spurs in our little roundup of teams that could turn it around next week. But both City and Spurs should have lost by more. And therefore, I think that narrative klaxon, they might live to regret that.
Right. Okay. Well,
I think the key thing for City is getting Erling Haaland into the game. I mean, he had 10 touches in that game, 1 in the opposition box and no shots. Now, there's certain other strikers that if they produce those numbers in a Champions League game or a big game, that would be headline news. And I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I mean, as Benji explained, the way City set up was ridiculous. But yeah, they need to change that completely for the second leg.
3-0 is better than 4-0, but it's not as good, I would argue, as 3-1, which it would have been if Thibaut Courtois hadn't pulled off that remarkable save on Nick O'Reilly. Vector says, where does the Courtois save on O'Reilly's shot rank among the best saves in UCL history? Duncan, is that in your top 5 of saves ever?
It's in my top 6, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. It was great. I mean, it occurred to me watching that Chelsea have not won the league since they had Thibaut Courtois in goal, and then your eyes flitted across to the Parc des Princes, and you were like, oh yeah, goalkeepers, quite good, aren't they? Having a good goalkeeper is worth it.
Arsenal, Wednesday night, had the first Champions League match this season that they haven't won, and the first time they've actually gone behind in. This was away at the Bayer Arena against Bayer Leverkusen, a 1-1 draw. And some people may have felt they were lucky to even come away with a draw. Leverkusen had taken the lead right at the start of the second half through, wouldn't you know, a corner.
But the corner came from a very inventive kickoff. So we're in an era of Everton to smash it into the sky trying to hit a seagull. PSG even, they're from the continent, but they hit it down into near the corner flag to play for touch. Bayer Leverkusen just passed it to each other and started running up the pitch. I didn't know this was allowed, but it certainly baffled and surprised Arsenal, who just about got it clear for a corner.
Well, Raya then made a brilliant save, actually.
Yeah. And
from the resulting
that corner.
Yeah. They took the lead, Bayer did, and they held that lead until the 89th minute. Well,
on the goal, there was that touching moment on the touchline when Kasper Hjulmand, the Leverkusen coach, had a little playful word with Nikola Jova, the Arsenal the most famous set pieces coach in the world. I'd love to know what he'd said.
Well,
it seemed quite friendly.
Watch this.
Not so good at corners now, are you, corner man?
Was it that kind of vibe? Because this was referenced in commentary. I didn't see it.
It was very fleeting.
He turns afterwards and
he's going
gesticulates.
Didn't see that one coming, or got that one from you, mate.
Terror is over.
Yeah,
It's feisty in here today, Benji. Very good. Do you think that Kai Havertz should have been taking a penalty kick later on, or rather, Arsenal should have been awarded one after Madueke went down with about 5 minutes to play in the 90?
I mean, it was curious because I think that they showed about 9 or 10 different angles on the replay, and in all of them but one, it looked like it wasn't a penalty. And then there was one where you saw that there had been a little bit of contact between, I think it was Tillman, the Leverkusen substitute, and Madueke's heel. And so he went down. I mean, soft, but not a completely invented penalty. But yeah, a bit soft.
Okay. Arsenal a bit soft? What was up with the Gunners?
I think it was Bukayo Saka's worst performance of the season. He was
captain Bukayo Saka.
He was terrible. And I think it was notable that when Madueke came on for him early in the second half, Madueke was Arsenal's best player for the whole game, even though he only played in the second half. He was outstanding, and that kind of turned the game, really. And I think Arsenal deserved a draw, maybe not via the method they got it. But yeah, I think they're probably satisfied to go back to North London level.
Okay. We'll see next week. Tom.
So very impressed by Leverkusen's 19-year-old Cameroonian forward Christian Kofan, who I'd not heard of before, who was playing up front in place of Patrick Schick, who was only fit enough for the bench, led the line on his own, did brilliantly. He was up against William Saliba and Gabriel, held the ball up really well, worked the channels very well, put in a proper shift. And yeah, was very close to helping his team to what would have been a very impressive victory.
Okay. 1-1 though it is as they head to the Emirates next week. Whoever does come through that tie will be up against the winners of the Bodo Glimt Sporting Club de Lisbon affair, which currently has Bodo Glimt very much in the driving seat. 3-0 winners yesterday in the Arctic Circle. That is now 5 wins in a row in the Champions League for the Norwegians. Crazy.
Yeah, incredible. And like the feel-good story of this season's Champions League. And also feels like we've opened up a new frontier in European football. And when you used to talk about difficult European away trips for the big clubs of Western Europe, they were always going east beyond the Iron Curtain. Those trips tend to be slightly less problematic these days, but there's a new problem trip up north.
What's the deepest of Scandinavian teams ever gone in the Champions League?
Malmo got to the final in 1979. Lost to Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest.
Of course.
But what about the Champions League?
Champions League?
I watched the Bodo home games and just think, it'd be so fun to be there. Just you see the fans having an absolutely amazing time.
Benji.
Well, yeah, but I shouldn't get a ticket.
You shouldn't. No,
because
you'd be denying.
Well, if you are, who is the guy that you had on?
Martin Schleipness.
This was wonderful. He said that he'd spoken to people that had sold boats to go to their away games. If you are from Bodo or indeed Glimt, you are having the time of your life right now.
That's exactly the way he's telling it as well. I'm not sure if he made it all the way down to Lisbon, but I hope we're going to be speaking to him again soon as they continue their progress, as they look set to do. Their entire squad is worth less than what Sporting made just off selling Victor Gyökeres to Arsenal. Remarkable. Anyway, they go again on Tuesday. Back in Lisbon, of course, that time. Be a lot of boats sold to finance the away end for that, no doubt.
To get there.
Possibly. Matchday 30 of the Premier League. As you'll recall, it's currently Arsenal, top of the table, 7 points clear of Man City, having played a game more. 4 teams are behind those two, chasing the 3 remaining Champions League places. That's Man United and Villa, who are level on points and face each other this weekend. And 3 points behind them, Chelsea and Liverpool. Down the bottom, Spurs are now just 1 point clear of Forest and West Ham and the bottom 3. Matchday 30, there's no early game on Saturday. 2 matches at 3 o'clock. Burnley-Bournemouth and Sunderland-Brighton. 2 games at 5:30 on Saturday. That's Chelsea-Newcastle and Arsenal-Everton. Should Arsenal win that game, then by the time Man City kick off at 8 o'clock on Saturday, they could be 10 points behind. Woof. Man City will be at West Ham, Benji. Mm-hmm. On Sunday, there are 3 games at 2 p.m. That's Palace Leeds, Man United Aston Villa, and Forest Fulham. And then at 4:30, prepare your rubberiest of necks for Liverpool against Tottenham Hotspur. Monday night, the round concludes with Brentford Wolves. Crikey. Benji, West Ham Man City. West Ham have got an epically bad record at home to City. I think home or away, actually. They haven't beaten City in a decade.
Yeah, but It's awful, but I've got the hope, Jimbo.
Yeah, you have, haven't you?
Yeah.
Have you got the hope because you remember what City did last weekend against Forest?
Well, it's more just that it feels like West Ham have got a bit of momentum. We are actually quite good now.
2 defeats in the last 11 in all competitions.
Yeah, and quite a sort of morale boosting win in the cup on Monday. I was at Fulham last Wednesday when we. Well, actually, talking about draws, we did knock City out of a Carabao Cup a few years back.
That's true.
And you do wonder, with City having a wobble domestically, needing a bit of a miracle at the Etihad next week, whether we could do it. And I think Nuno should go for it, which he has been occasionally with West Ham. He's essentially played a couple of 4-2-4s, and there's another
4-2-4s.
Yeah, like with essentially Somerville, Bowen, Tati, and Wilson. Now there's a slight asterisk to this, is that Somerville looks likely to be injured for the game on Saturday night.
That's a big asterisk.
Well, enter Pep's nemesis, Adama Traore. He will surely deputise on the left wing. And I'm interested in what the chaos factor might bring here. We saw how Kuzanov was essentially torn apart on the flank last night.
Literally torn apart.
Literally torn apart. Was it Adama? I mean, it was quite a few moons ago now. I think it was
the Wolves game.
Yeah, the Wolves game. Where Adama, I think this is 2019, and they won 2-0 at City, who were probably champions at the time.
Was it 2? In my head, it's 3 or 4, but yes.
But it was just Adama tearing away.
Yes.
Now, as we're going to discuss shortly, this is not the same Adama, but there is potential for fun there.
It was baby oil, wasn't it, rather than Vaseline? It does appear to have stopped.
Olive oil. Olive oil.
Baby oil.
Other lubricants are available. Wow, Benji, that's quite the thought, because I had here, is Crescenzo okay? Question mark, question mark, question mark. That's my big question to you, but it might not be an issue. It kind of is, though, because he's been your best player this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, him and perennially brilliant Jared Bowen, but yeah.
A win for West Ham would be not only the first time that's happened in over a decade, but would also take you out of the relegation zone for the first time since early December, because Spurs and Forest don't play until Sunday. Wow. Okay, anybody else share Benji's optimism that West Ham...
I do, of the 3 teams battling to avoid the last relegation spot, I do think West Ham are the best ones. So maybe not this weekend, but I do think they will get enough points. I think it's between Spurs and Forest for the drop of doom.
Wow. Were they to get a point this weekend at home to City, it could spell the end for City's remaining title hopes. Arsenal... assuming that Arsenal managed to beat Everton a little bit earlier on. Everton have got the second best away record in the Premier League. Did you know that?
Yeah.
What do you think, Tom? David Moyes at the Emirates?
Well, he hadn't won there, had he, for ages? And then he did win there with West Ham in 2023. So he's got the Emirates hoodoo out of his system.
Has he?
Everton, incredible away form. I think 4 wins in their last 5 on the road in the Premier League, which is decent going. Bit of a free hit. I mean, they're 8th in the table. They've had a good season going into it on the back of 2 successive wins.
Been rested this week.
Yeah, have been able to put their feet up by strategically going out of the FA Cup before everybody else. And yeah, Arsenal will have this game sandwiched between the 2 legs of the Bayer Leverkusen tie. Need a result next week. We'll probably have to rest players. Haven't been super convincing. I mean, won at Brighton in the most recent league fixture with pretty jammy, deflected Bukayo Saka shot. I mean, cue breezy 4-0 Arsenal win. But you don't have to try too hard to make a case for a surprise result here, I don't think.
It's remarkable. Benji, is this where you'd like to deploy the James Garner index?
If you don't mind.
Please.
Everton also have 2 of the best players in the league. Now, what do I mean by that? So, I think I've mentioned previously that I play a fantasy game that is based on Opta data. And this is like a different level to your kind of Muggle fantasy Premier League. So it computes a score for every player based on multiple data points. And
so those data points you're happy with?
I'm a big fan of data points. I think XG needs to be recalibrated and turned off and on again. Anyway, so according to this index, the top 10 players in the league are Bruno. By the way,
you have to provide a bit of details. How does the machine come up with these?
So essentially, it's customized. It awards points based on each each data point. So like a goal is still like 9 points or whatever compared to like an interception that's like 1.5 or an aerial duel that's like 0.5.
So you can pick up points in a variety.
Yeah, and I will publish this so everyone can kind of look at how the index is made. Yeah. But it gives you a really good sense of who the best players in the league are.
I feel you should be in front of, one of those old-fashioned university lecture halls or wooden seats.
With a long stick.
Be waving your papers, and people will be banging their sticks and saying, no,
Absolutely,
humbug.
Yeah. So I would be banging my big long stick at Bruno in first position, followed by Haaland, Rice, Semenyo, Saka, James Tarkowski, Elliot Anderson, and now in number 8, and this is the one that I love the most, is James Garner.
Right.
Now, the reason I think this is notable...
He's not even the top James.
Well, he's not the top Everton player. But ask any Everton fan. Any Everton fan will tell you that James Garner is having a phenomenal season, and probably, it's being slightly overlooked. And it got me thinking, who are the other James Garners that have had like extraordinary glow-ups this season versus last?
Oh, right, okay.
Right?
I wanted to talk about the Rockford Fast, which was a great show.
What is that? Let's.
The Rockford Fast. Do you ever watch the Rockford Fast?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, the Rockford Fast was a seminal 1970s, seminal example of the 1970s genre of American PIs with a good heart, down on their luck. In James Garner's case, he was living out of a trailer and essentially supporting his rather sweet but rather idiot dad. And the paradigm was pretty simple. Every episode would begin with somebody leaving Jim Garner, a message on his answering machine. He had an answering machine, pretty newfangled technology. So he would say, this is Jim Rockford, I'm not there. James Garner was the actor, sorry. This is Jim Rockford, I'm not there. And they'd say, Jim, da-da-da-da-da, and then off he'd go. Good-looking chap as well.
But did his prospects or his performance improve episode on episode? Because then it would be...
No, that would ruin the paradigm.
Oh, it's a shame.
He had to remain a lovably down at heel.
Well, this is... Yeah, unfortunately, that is not continuous with this modern James Garner index, because what this modern James Garner has done is followed a really disappointing season with an amazing one.
Oh.
And... So that is what this is trying to work out. It's essentially the player version of the Uncle Jeff Index, who is having a better season compared to their season, compared to their performances last season.
I thought the name was Uncle Jeff Coefficient.
Yes, well, but people have actually made an index out of it. Websites, indeed, Jimbo, where you rank.
You can't open.
With it. I'm pretty sure you can. That you rank the teams according to how they're doing against their performance last season. Right. Anyway, I've got handouts.
So your numbers refer to how these players are doing against the teams
versus their performances last season. So here you go.
Thanks very much.
So it will. I think there's stories.
These are star charts.
It's ranking every player and then looking at who has jumped up the ranks the most, and who has fallen down the ranks the most.
Okay.
Okay. So if you look at the risers, you see a number of players that have had amazing seasons compared to what they were doing last year. So James Garner, embarrassingly, actually isn't top of the James Garner Index, but he is third, and he's.
So why is it called the James Garner Index?
Well, because I thought he's just such a kind of like forgettable footballer. I thought anyway, and it just blew my mind that suddenly he's the 8th best player according to this index.
I think it's good that he's not top.
Okay, good. Well, the player that is top is Marcos Senesi.
For the risers by rank.
He has risen 240 positions from 257th best player in the league to 17th. And if you go down, you can see other stories like Reece James, who's having a brilliant season. Yeah. He's jumped 175 places. The aforementioned Somerville. Chris Richards at Palace. Ask any Palace fan, they'll tell you how brilliant he's been.
Harry Wilson.
Harry Wilson's in there. Jurian Timber's doing much better.
Casemiro.
What I think is also amazing is that a player that was already brilliant last season, Gabriel at Arsenal, has got even better. He's now, according to this index, the 13th best player in the league. And then you look at the fallers.
Let's do that. That's what I want to do.
So that tells stories. So in here you've got players like Milenkovic and Murillo at Forest.
Top of the fallers by rank
is our mate Adama Traore. And everyone might think that's a bit weird. And this is slightly statistically skewed by the fact that he played a lot of games for Fulham last season. He's not played as much this season.
I see.
But also, I've seen him play this year. Like, he's played 20 games, off the bench or started this year so far and done basically nothing. But other players that have fallen off a cliff, Max Kilman, again, at West Ham, he was half decent at the beginning of last season, is disastrous this year. Clivert's disappeared this year. Alanga, compared to how he performed last season.
You don't want to call it the Killman Index because he could get in trouble.
That's true. No, we don't want anyone being hurt from this. But then also players like Karu Matoma, fantastic last season, not as good this season.
Was he fantastic last season?
He was injured a lot last season, wasn't he, Matoma? I think the season before he was very good.
Anyway, I'll publish this, and people can.
Where will you publish it, Benji?
Probably on social media or something. Or, I'll give us a chart.
Because at the bottom, if you're curious about the 29 weighted Opta stats with which the James Garner index, I don't know if you've spoken to him about the naming rights to this, but anyway, is constructed.
The player's name, and someone else's data, and someone else's scoring system, and you claim it as your own.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
So the criteria.
The platform is Fantrax.
I just want to say that it's all listed at the bottom, so you can find out.
You don't see my name anywhere on this, although I will add it when I publish it. I just thought it was an interesting way of looking at the players who are having fantastic seasons.
And when you invited us to come up with some suggestions for players who were kind of, not overperforming this season but doing a lot better, my mind went blank. And then looking down this list, and it's all them.
There you go.
So there's the proof.
If your mind goes blank during football conversations, this could be exactly the kind of thing you need, listener.
Again,
follow Benji.
One just last thing that I would add.
All right.
If you look at this season's top, 20, you see some of the kind of like really brilliant stories. For example,
Virgil van Dijk is 15th. What? Hang on, I've not been looking at this closely enough.
Well, okay, maybe not that then. But Anton Stack in the top 20.
Right.
Love that.
Okay, I'm going to move on now, not because this isn't great, but because Duncan really expressed an interest to the desire to talk about Man United Aston Villa, which is coming up Sunday at 2:00. Duncan, such a key match this for the top 5 race.
Yeah, huge. Villa traditionally struggle at Old Trafford. We can all remember games such as the Federico Valverde match where United turned it round. I think they've won twice in their last 37 trips.
Even last season, when Man United were at their worst, Villa still contrived to lose there in the final game of the campaign and missed out on the Champions League as a result.
Interesting, because as we discussed earlier, the coefficient is not destroyed, but it's taken a few hits this week. Villa, you'd expect to do quite well under Emery in the Europa League. Their performance could secure the Premier League's 5th Champions League spot. And it could be a battle between United and Villa for that spot. So Villa could inadvertently save the Premier League, but doom themselves. So, I think this will be... I'd imagine Manchester United would be favourites.
But just on that defeat, on the last day of last season, the one that cost Villa a place in the Champions League, they should never have lost that game because of the goal that was wrongly ruled out for a foul by Morgan Rogers on... Who was the United goalkeeper in that game? It wasn't Anana, was it? It was...
No, it was...
Bayindir, I think. That fairly scandalous decision. And then immediately afterwards, United scored the winner. And as Duncan said, Villa have already got a terrible record at Old Trafford. They will be haunted by the memory of what happened there last season. And their form has just fallen off a cliff. I think largely in part, or largely thanks to all the absentees at the moment. Boubacar Kamara, John McGinn,
Tielemans,
etc. Nearing a return. But then United go into this off the back of that defeat at Newcastle, which suggested that actually maybe they were slightly overperforming points-wise in the early days of the Michael Carrick era.
They've had a fabled week on the training ground where Villa are in Europa League action. So
true against Lille Thursday night.
They won't even be able to play Jadon Sancho because ineligible against his parent club. So I think this will be an intense and fun game. They always are. I mean, even United's last league title was secured with Wayne Rooney's long pass to Robin van Persie.
I was there.
Were you there?
Speaking of best goals ever, that is probably in my top 5 goals that I've seen with my own eyes.
With your own eyes?
How do you normally see goals?
Good question.
Chelsea are in the mix for top 5. 3 points behind Villa and Man United. They host Newcastle Saturday tea time. Of course, both sides were involved in midweek action, as were Liverpool and Tottenham, who will be facing each other 4:30 on Sunday. Liverpool currently level with Chelsea. They are the team in 6th spot, set as it stands to miss out on Champions League football next time around. Liverpool Spurs is the highest scoring fixture in Premier League history. We don't know how much longer it will be a fixture in Premier League history, but for now, that's one to get excited about. Sunday at 4:30.
Very different vibe to last season, where it was a game where Liverpool won the title, and they romped to a big win. This time, 2 teams racked with existential dread.
Sounds fun.
Yeah,
that's Sunday at 4:30, and that'll be followed if you like seeing people racked with existential dread, by us recording live on YouTube our Monday morning podcast roundup, around about 7:15, I would think, or possibly 7:30.
Is Tudor going to be there still on Sunday?
Well, Benji, we recorded a show all about Spurs yesterday, and I was anticipating it to have a very short shelf life, but he's still there.
Maybe they're going to sack him after 17 minutes just to, bit of karmic
You like him,
retribution.
You said he was going to be good.
I did say quite confidently that he was exactly the right man for the job, and look out for Spurs flying up the table. So, look forward to seeing that.
Harry Redknapp on the radio this morning saying he would even leave Cheltenham early to go and pick up the reins.
Has he issued a come and get me hat and ring?
Essentially, and it was from Cheltenham directly.
And he's got a horse that's like a favourite for the big one.
Well, to be honest, he's not going to be riding it. He can go, and the horse will still...
I think he did actually asterisk that he'd wait until after the Gold Cup, but then he would happily go and manage.
Okay.
Depends on the nature of his relationship with the horse. Is the horse an arm around the shoulder horse? Is it a kick up the backside horse? Does it need its owner's presence?
Right.
I mean,
what kind of horse are Spurs, Tom?
A dying one.
Right. Ponies, one example of horse you could use.
Well, their kit used to be made by ponies, so
that's fair
true. Play. But I mean, we joke about horses, but they are quite seismic in Premier League history. I mean, Alex Ferguson's horse-related antics changed the very direction of Manchester United.
Right. Perugia owner Luciano Gauci once posited that football would be better if you could play 11 horses.
It was polo, isn't it?
Well, yeah. What about the relegation battle? West Ham, as mentioned, are going to beat Man City. Benji's explained that one to us. Liverpool taking on Spurs, and Forest host Fulham. Notionally, the easiest of those three teams' fixtures, no? With Forest coming from behind against Man City twice last week to get Vitor Pereira's first point at the club.
But I mean, concerning home form for Forest, I think they've gone 6 at home without winning in the league. When we think about the last couple of seasons, home form has been pretty key to them staying up in the division. But then Fulham lost at home to West Ham in their most recent league game. Went out of the cup after Marco Silva sent it out a reserve outfit against Championship Southampton and lost. I'm not sure if he is back.
That was a big difference against us last Wednesday. They looked pretty weak without him.
Yeah. They're in action, Forest, on Thursday night tonight as we record. They are up against Midtjylland. Is that home or away? No, they're hosting. Hosting Midtjylland could be key. Also in action on Thursday night are Crystal Palace, who will also be at home against AK Larnaca out of Cyprus. That's in the Conference League. On Sunday, Palace will be hosting Leeds. Also playing this weekend are Burnley against Bournemouth and Sunderland Brighton. And then on Monday night, it's Wolves visiting Brentford. Wolves, who have won their last 2 in the Premier League, but they've yet to win an away game in the league. They're the only side in the top 5 tiers of English football yet to record a win on the road. Remarkable.
People inventing new stats for Wolves now that they've surged past 11 points. Interesting.
Here's a stat you'll like, Duncan, or not. Bournemouth, their games are the second highest scoring in the Premier League this season, but they've also had the most 0-0 draws.
Crazy. Baffling.
They're having a mad season, Bournemouth, in that they were like good and then they were bad.
Right.
And now they're good again.
Are they good
Although
again?
they are drawing a lot. They should have beaten Brentford last time out. Marcus Tavernier could have had a hat-trick all on his own, but they have at least stopped the rot.
They got the top 2 in the James Garner index.
I was going to say.
Senesi and Alex Scott.
Speaks for itself.
Yeah. Senesi will be off again this summer, by the way.
Okay.
They just keep on producing fantastic centre-backs and then they immediately ship them off. And they won't even get any money for Senesi because he's letting his contract run down. Sad.
Benji, West Ham going to be out the bottom 3 at the end of this weekend?
No, but I think it is possible that we will finish outside the bottom 3. Like, we are, I think I agree with Dunk, worryingly, that we are the best of the 3. Right. And Spurs are definitely the worst of the 3.
Really?
Yeah. But we just might have left it too late, Jimbo. And ultimately, then it'll be Graham Potter that got us relegated, which is very sad. Because Nuno's done pretty well. A
lot of football still to be played. How many points is it? 27?
Yeah.
28? 27?
27.
27 points still to be played for, Benji.
Yeah.
A lot of football, a lot of talking. And we'll be doing more of it, of course, on Sunday night. For now, many thanks to you for bringing the James Garner Index and so much more into our lives on this Thursday morning.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Check out Pickfair if you want to build a picture-selling website of your own.
Absolutely.
Tom Williams, I forgot to mention, but your Va-Va-Voom, the definitive account of the rise of French football, is about to drop in paperback form.
Yes.
Have you used my alternative title in this version?
Big Pharma? No, I haven't, Duncan. That was Duncan's entirely and not actually very serious suggestion when I was.
That's really good.
I was doing a bit of wisdom of crowds.
Yes.
Debate about what I might call the book. But yes, the paperback version is out April the 9th.
Oh, yeah. What's new in it?
Pre-order it now. Well, a very detailed account of PSG's record-breaking 24-25 season and its potential ramifications for French football. A bit of Didier Deschamps chat, including a brief chat with the man himself, and a general bringing up to date of where French football is as we barrel towards the World Cup, which of course will be Didier Deschamps' final.
Third division in France as well.
That is on its way, yes.
Well, I'm so sorry we didn't mention that at the start when everyone was still listening, but
I'm sure they're all still there.
Okay, April the 9th.
April the 9th.
Va-Va-Voom. And Duncan, you'll be heading off to commission some nice things now, no doubt.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday you'll be with us here in the studio again.
I believe so.
Woo!
Let's hope for some hot action.
Yeah, it's pretty much a given. Anyway, that's it for today's show. So many thanks to you for following us here on the Totally Football Show. Hope to be speaking to you again soon. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.